Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is Sparta!
All your days are belong to us.
It's a trap 9000!
Stop collecting all of us.
Leave Benny alone!
Leroy Dragon!
Objection!
The balls are inert.
Time to
And now it begins.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Phoenix 92.5 FM. This is Nerd to No Basis. We are on episode 59. So after last week's break, we did a stream over on Twitch. If you're not up to date with that, we're the whole crew. We're dropping a lot of Twitch streams. You can go over to Nerdtone Media on Twitch or Nerdducks on Twitch. Either way, subscribe to both, follow both, and you'll be able to find us there. We're there a lot. I still haven't got around to organise a timetable. I will, but assume that around Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, that's when we kind of stream, or randomly throughout the week. So we're back here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. My name is Darragh Connor, and I'm joined by the returning Mr. Brin O'Rourke. Brin, how are you, sir?
Oh, it's good to be back.
You've been missed, man. We thought you died. Where'd you go?
Just my internet.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the same thing, right? When you disappear.
Pretty much. It's like it's like South Park when characters quit Twitter.
Oh wow. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of you're not on Facebook, so it's apt.
Yeah.
It's apt. It's just like the man doesn't exist anymore. Basically,
yeah. The only Facebook product I use now is WhatsApp, and even then I'm patiently waiting for people to stop using that so I can stop using it.
Yeah, no, I don't think people are going to. I think like WhatsApp is like WhatsApp is like the new platform, really.
Yeah, it's kind of this stuff is like really decentralized, where like it's like WhatsApp and Instagram for the moment are kind of like the big Facebook platforms, and then you kind of get in the flash in the pan stuff like Snapchat, and what's the other video thing that's around now? The TikTok, yeah. The thing that's definitely not sending your information to the Chinese government.
Listen, folks, if you're using TikTok, you're an idiot. Don't use TikTok.
Yeah.
Not because it's a bad product or it's silly. It's those two, but it literally sends your data to the communist Chinese government, and it's spyware. Yep. Take this from two people who have been involved in the cybersecurity business for a while.
Yeah, but
your phone is getting hacked.
Yeah, there's also a PSA to stop using Chrome.
Stop using. Well, that's obvious because it's Google.
Yeah,
but listen,
but it's also now classified as spyware.
Oh yeah, well, dude, come on, it's been there for a while. Like, listen, and that's a good point to bring up. The Brave browser, right?
Yeah, Chromium,
but we have a partnership with Brave browser. For our podcast listeners, it's in the description below. Click it. That supports us as well.
Yeah,
but
Brave
seriously,
is one of the best browsers going.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's so cool. It has everything you want. Full spectrum coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can customize everything. The Chi-Coms aren't stealing your data, and it's not malware. It's fantastic. DuckDuckGo is the search engine it uses, and it's great. So that I use the Brave browser. And it has a great app as well for phones. So if you're interested in that, after you finish downloading the show, go over to our anywhere our show's hosted and get the link there. And that will actually help us a lot. You actually get to support the show, but also help us out a lot.
Yeah, no, Brave has been I've been made aware of it since I think about 2, maybe 3 years ago. Because I browser hop like crazy, and I discovered the first version I discovered was the mobile phone app,
right?
And then I was like, this is a great browser. Is there a desktop version? Saw it, was like, oh, okay, and the desktop version is outstanding.
Yeah, and the link is brave.com/NER386. So if you type that in, download it, that directly helps us out, but also gives you a fantastic browser that, look, I wouldn't recommend it myself if I didn't use it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like Brave is just so damn handy. And one of the features I love is that it actually gives you a stat count when you boot it up. When you boot it up on your machine, where it tells you like how many ads and stuff it's been blocking so far, and that's just so nice to see.
It is. It's kind of like, you know, people use ad blocker and stuff like that, but it's less invasive than that, and it's less kind of messing around because, you know, it's like, oh, is this spyware? Is this, you know, whatever? And it's like, no, it's not doing that. You know, it's all got to do with keeping your data safe. Like, to be fair, I don't mind using Chrome, to be honest with you, because I know what I'm getting myself in for.
Yeah.
And it's easy. But with Brave, it's like, you know, Google block a lot of things.
Yeah.
And really restrict a lot of internet things. So you're like, right, I don't really want to do that. I want to be able to kind of have a much better internet experience. And as you do that, like, there's somebody, Opera is quite good, and a lot of people are swapping to that, but even that isn't great. Vivaldi is fantastic. I love Vivaldi. That's what I use on work.
Yeah, Vivaldi is like if customizability is the most important thing to you in your user experience. Vivaldi is one of the best browsers you can get.
Correct, and that's why. And that's why, because it's like full on. It's like Firefox and Chrome mixed together.
Yep.
With like full on modular customization.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. But look, it's a whole world out there with browsers. I had to, believe it or not, I had to install Safari on my Windows machine for work the other day.
Oh, no way!
And it was horrible.
What on earth?
Yeah, I know, right? Because when you're replicating issues, you have to be able to do it. And I was like, oh, this is such a bad browser. Why does anyone use this? You know?
Hey, but I mean, like back in the mid 2000s, Safari was one of the better browsers.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
It's just been.
It was around the same time that Yahoo was like the big thing, though, as well.
Yeah, there was that hot minute where Yahoo was really good again, and then that all kind of like went pear-shaped pretty quickly for Yahoo.
Like Yahoo, like I remember I have a Yahoo email address from that time, and it's weird because it's my spam email basically. It's where you know, you buy stuff off Amazon, it's where it goes, right, or other kind of stuff. And I check it every like 4 months or something, and it's like 4,000 emails. I'm like, oh Jesus, what is this? You know, but then like 2 or 3 years later, Google took over, and it was like, bang, that was it.
Yep.
Just almost obsolete. But Yahoo did a very interesting thing where they bought a lot of subsidiaries that are still around today that still necessitate Yahoo being there.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think that's what's going to happen to Facebook. Facebook will buy certain things that will necessitate Facebook being there outside Facebook.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think
we're seeing with Instagram, and we talked about WhatsApp. They're two of the big ones right now.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if that's how those companies stay around. Because I mean, you know, there would have been people taking bets at the beginning of the last decade on how long Yahoo was going to stay alive, and to their credit, they're still here. Yeah,
and they will be, and they're not going anywhere because they've weathered that storm. You know, and I think it's a very interesting time to see this, because this is kind of like the move now, where everything has kind of peaked in that sense. Like, you know, established giants are there. But as you said, you know, Facebook and Google, what's the big threat now? Security and freedom of data and stuff. They're too. Don't get me wrong. Like I use Google accounts. I use Facebook, all that kind of stuff. But you know, they're not the best. For your data, they do take in a lot of your data. And you know, we were talking before we went on air, the whole Zoom thing. Like I don't know if our listeners probably have pieced together that we use Zoom to record the show.
And we have for a very long time.
For a very long time, yeah, pretty much from the start. Actually, it was from the start, because we started using Zoom for the desk about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
That's when we started.
Yeah.
I think we did a couple of episodes using Skype, and then we discovered Zoom, and we're like, never going back.
Never going back. This is great, and look, it's the best. You know, it's fantastic because it's like, you know, it's like we're in the room together. I think that's
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's what people like. You know, we did the watch along over Skype. There, and we got some Skype and death drops, and like, listen, we're using Zoom now.
Yeah,
you know, with Katie, Lisa, and Keen. Like Keen, we kind of forced them to use Zoom. But with everyone else, you're like, it's kind of a hard sell.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, it's this thing, it's a bit different, it's fine. And then when they use it, they're like, oh my God, this is great, right? But trying to get people to install clients is difficult, and I get that. But now we're seeing this massive explosion with Zoom. Like, everyone is using, like, my mom was saying, I've heard so much about the Zoom thing, and I'm like, when my mom is talking about something like that, you know it's reached critical mass.
Yeah.
And it's obviously because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
That everyone is kind of, and as you said, you know, correctly, it's educators that would be spreading this more than anything else.
Yeah.
So teachers and stuff like that.
I mean, even like my dad was saying to me that like he's occupying his time with online courses right now.
Yeah.
So like all of them are using Zoom, and I was just like, oh, because like I installed it on my dad's machine because my dad lives in Cork.
Right.
So if he has issues with his laptop,
you can remote access then.
Yeah, exactly.
Same. That's why a lot of my friends have it too, because I'm like, here, I need access to your machine, and that's something that a lot of people don't know is there.
Yep.
But it is, and it's really handy. Like in a corporate sense.
It's also really, really dangerous.
Oh, it's exceptionally dangerous. But like the tool is extremely dangerous. But every tool, you know, you pick up a hammer.
Yep.
That's a very dangerous tool right there. You know, a saw. You know, this can kill people. So I just think it's funny that like this is the prime example of a tool that was never meant to be in the hands of everybody, being in the hands of everybody. And it's just like, wow. So, you know, and we were right now they're being pulled over the coals for loads of things. And, you know, I to be honest with you, before I looked into it, I was a little bit guilty myself. Where I was like, lol, you know, companies using this, it's funny. And then I looked into what the actual vulnerabilities were, and I'm like, wait a minute, there isn't a vulnerability. Vulnerability is people, which is very hard to mitigate against, because people are people.
Yeah. It's just people being very creative with the existing features.
Yeah, it's social engineering, right? That's literally what it is. And social engineering is the hardest thing to kind of overcome. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, right? Oh, wait, we're using terms that people might not know.
Yeah.
Okay, so social engineering is when you trick somebody into do something that you want them to do. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Usually it involves clicking on something, right? Yeah. So let's break down exactly what the issue with Zoom is right now. You break it down. So what's going on?
So there's a few different things that have been happening, but one of the most common issues that's been happening is the way that people get access to Zoom meetings is through a link that has a meeting ID. This is a 9-digit number, and most people are not, like, you've always had this option to attach a password to the meeting. Most people haven't done that, so literally anyone can join the meeting.
Yeah,
and there's been incidents where you can see people who've literally put out tweets going, "Hey, I need meeting IDs, and I'll bombard your classes," and then they just get meeting IDs, and then away they go.
Yeah,
and like, what do you expect? Like, at that point, you know.
But not only that, there's also a tool that's been there for ages, where you can lock the meeting.
Yep.
So, and it's been there for literally years.
Yeah.
But no one's used it, and the reason why no one used it is because there wasn't a nice little tab that did it. Now they've recently put the tab in where you can lock the meeting.
But as well as that, there's things in place on Zoom as well where you can really lock down the level of interaction there is.
Yeah, there's waiting rooms and everything.
Yeah, like even I've been in meetings where only the person who created the meeting, the host, is able to have a camera on them.
Is able to speak. Is able to share. Yeah.
Everyone else can just raise their hand.
Yeah.
And then throw a question into the Q&A.
Yeah.
But see,
this is the thing that requires effort and time.
Oh yeah, totally.
And what are the rules? We've said this many times here. If something's fast and easy,
it's
not going to be secure.
No.
Or fast and cheap. It's not going to be secure. And that's it. Like, this is a free piece of software that's extremely fast and extremely easy.
Yep.
Unless you're going to spend the time locking this down, it's going to be open for exploitation. So I feel bad about that. And, you know, the smear that they were smeared with, like, it was unfair. However, they did lie about their end-to-end encryption.
Yeah.
That's a biggie. That's a biggie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one thing that I can see have blown up their face. So end-to-end encryption, guys, is at one point they send a message, and at the other point, when message received, it's encrypted. So no outsider people can see it, basically.
The best way to like describe it would be, imagine I send, like, the best way I can think to describe it is like, if, let's say it's myself and you, and we're going to send a message to the post, right?
Yeah.
Now, imagine that, like, the entire way between me sending it to you and you receiving it, there's literally someone making sure no one can see it.
Yeah, exactly.
The entire way through.
It's like somebody holding up literally like a filter blocking it the entire time.
Yeah.
And by definition, end to end would be from the beginning to the end of its life cycle.
Yeah.
Is completely blocked. Yeah. Now, and you said this, and you took the words out of my mouth. Surely, by how good the quality is on Zoom calls, that's impossible.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know if anyone has any experience with actually using encryption software. It makes stuff hella slow.
Yeah.
VPNs, you might notice with VPNs as well, it drops the quality quite a bit. Yeah, so it's possible.
There's two ways around the problem. One is that you go, like, you basically have to say, you basically have to decide which you want more.
Yeah.
Quality or latency.
Yeah.
If you want, if you don't care about latency, then you go, okay, well, we'll just have it be as immediate as possible, and we'll say, we'll just take the hit on the quality of it. But if you really want the quality to be there, then you're going to have to just accept that there's going to be latency, and it's going to be like, if you remember, like, satellite calls on the news back in the day, there'd be like 30-second delay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you'd see.
Yeah.
You know, with encryption, with encrypted.
Without going into it too much, right? And don't want to get too blow people's head off on this, but there's two ways that messages are sent on the internet. There's UDP and TCP, right? TCP is the encrypted traffic, and it's slower. But looking for call and response. And basically that is how everything encrypted on the internet works, or anything that requires a login works.
Yep.
UDP is just firing it, and there's no response. And that's how videos work, right? One is safer than the other. One is more preferred than the other. But again, you're going to constantly have that security versus latency issue. So the fact that I'm not, as you said, with satellite calls, I'm not saying, how are you, Brin? And then 30 seconds later, you're like, oh, I'm fine. You know, that would be a nightmare. That's it, you know, and purely by that existing, you can be like, lads, you're telling fibs here.
Yeah.
You know, and they were, and this was found out. So I would expect Zoom to be, the Zoom higher ups to be in a fair amount of hot water for that.
Yep.
And apparently they're going to be under federal indictments now because of this, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is all the fun stuff that they've got to deal with really now. So it's, but you know, I mean,
nobody thought this was going to happen though. Like, I can't believe, like as I said to you, like, we used Zoom when people didn't know what Zoom was.
Yep.
And then slowly, once this pandemic hit, it's everywhere. It's on the news. Like, dude, for context, right? For context. Back in 2011, 2010, when we first started doing radio and so this, before we even met, like, we would use Skype, right, to do the desk. And 2016, 17 is when, like, mainstream media started using Skype.
Yep, I think
RT and stuff started using Skype.
Yep.
In months, weeks, they jumped onto the Zoom train. Yep. That's crazy.
Yeah, like,
it's crazy.
It's one of those things where, like, it just took, I think, it was crazy because, like, Skype Skype was a known thing.
Yeah, for years.
For a decade.
Yeah,
easily before it started being used, before you started seeing it in a mass media consumption form. Because like Skype for Business is a relatively new product for Skype.
By the way, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's a relatively new concept in the lifespan of that product.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it spent like so much of that time paving the way for it that it just made it easier for whatever competitor was going to come next. It's kind of like, it's the way that like, if you compare it to like social media sites where you had like, what was it, like Friendster, and then and that paved the way a little bit, and then
from MySpace,
from that came MySpace, and then MySpace got a good bit further, and then Facebook just ran with it, steamrolled it.
Yeah, Facebook. Basically, what happened? That's a great way of putting it. Like, for example, Facebook was sold to me as MySpace with Instant Messenger.
Yep.
Like MSN Messenger, which it is. Yep. Basically, it's just an expanded version of it, and that's kind of what Zoom was. Zoom is Skype, but Skype that works.
Yeah.
Right? Skype that works and that doesn't drop, and it's very generous with its free tier as well, which is also, which is how they got our money. They give you the 40 minutes, but to go over you have to pay it, and it's worth it compared to Skype where you can talk for hours, but you're gonna drop 6 or 7 times. And it's just not worth it. So they built it, but the tools that are in it, like from a professional capacity, like the company I work for now, they use something different than Zoom, and every day I wish that they use Zoom, because the tool I have to use is terrible because it isn't Zoom, right? And it's just like it isn't, and you're just saying, right, this is fantastic. So and you look at their stock prices, and even with all the stuff that's going on, it's through the roof, because it's like, they really have the market cornered, and they deserve to have the market cornered because it's the best.
It's been the best product on the market for years.
Yeah.
So it's not a shocker, and like, to be honest with you, even with all the patching and updates that they've been putting in the last 2 weeks, the product's gotten better with these improvements too, with these updates. Like, so
that's why when I bought it, I was just like, like once I knew the vulnerability wasn't the vulnerability, I was like, right, this is
business as usual.
Yeah, business as usual. And people are freaking out. It's like, listen, if you're my policy is, if you're stupid enough to click the link, you deserve whatever happened to you.
It's interesting though as well, because I've seen a lot of talk online where people keep bringing up a vulnerability that was exposed last year. Right. Where it was a 0-day vulnerability for basically for it was a remote
code execution.
It was a remote access flaw that affected Macs only.
Right.
And it was the 0-day vulnerability, which is basically a day where people found out it was a vulnerability, like where the company found out that it was a vulnerability at the same time as everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is pretty much a nightmare scenario. Where
it is, but just on that point though, like most hacking, most breaches, they're not caused by 0 days. 0 days are like, even though they're the big bad, for anyone who works there and deals with it. Honestly, the big ones are stuff that have been, there for years that people just don't patch, or they're social engineering, which is most. Like
the stat I heard was that the most common hacks you see happen with medium severity vulnerabilities.
For example, dude, Eternal Blue.
Yep.
That's still the main one.
Yep.
You run an attack using Eternal Blue, you're gonna get in like 85% of the time. Still.
Want to explain what Eternal Blue is?
Oh yeah, Eternal Blue is like the Windows exploit. It's like the biggie, right? It's the one that you go for first if you're going for an attack. Mm-hmm. It's got to do with the actual internal kernel of Windows. That goes through I think it's through the SMB port. And it just allows you basically access into it. But so basically, it should be patched.
For the non-technical people in our audience.
Thanks for grabbing that from me, Brent, because I'm like, is this too much?
So like the kernel is basically what would you call it? Like the central nervous system.
It's the
operating system.
It's the brain of the operating system. It's what makes the operating system work, basically.
Like it's basically it's like the brain of it. Everything else in terms of the hierarchy of how Windows works descends from that. So if you get in there, you have everything.
Yeah, everything.
It would be like, to use a ridiculous analogy, it'd be like, do you remember like the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s Ninja Turtles cartoon where the Shredder would use to drill to get places?
Oh,
like
Technodrome?
But it wasn't like the Technodrome. It was like that little drill thing that he had where himself and Bebop and Rocksteady would come out of it. It's basically like him drilling right into the vault of a bank.
Well,
is basically what that hack is doing.
Exactly. And then from there you basically, there's different stages in hacking, but what you're looking for is an access point, a target, and then a way in. And it's always like something, easy enough to get in. Believe it or not, like that, this stuff is super easy because it's not patched. And we're not talking big things like just how you crack consoles, how you do, all this kind of stuff, right? But the stats are scary because when you're looking at them, again, it's never these big 0 days. Like, even though it's really sexy to say 0 day and, all that kind of stuff, it's not. It's usually like something that they've been told about. For example, to bring it to Ireland, when the Lewis website was hacked, was it last year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it was last year. They were told by the guy himself, hey, fix these things. I believe it was an Nginx. No, it was worse. It was a Tomcat or Apache website they were using. And he was like, listen, this is not secure. I'm going to do something. And he didn't listen, and then he took over the website for like a week. Yeah. And just, that was basically it. And that's a prime example of someone just not patching something that should have.
And they took it back, and then he took it back again.
Yeah.
And then they took it back, and he took it back again. And he just kept going, like, I'm going to keep doing this.
Well, yeah, because they didn't fix the initial issue, because the vulnerability he used there was just Apache struts, I think. Yep. And that was it. And those things are lethal. They're like, if you're going for web servers, that's what you'd go for. You go for the Apache stuff. But, sorry for getting really technical on that, guys. But basically, Zoom is not dangerous. Zoom is fine.
That's a very long way to go to say that Zoom is actually okay.
Yeah, just don't be stupid. Don't click on things randomly and lock your meetings if you're not expecting
the internet is still the internet. Don't click on links if you don't think it's going to be a safe link.
Yeah, the internet is dangerous. That's basically the moral of the story here, guys. It's getting more dangerous now because of this pandemic. Like, malware attacks are through the roof because there's like a CV website that tracks, but there's a few legitimate ones. But there's like loads of these ones now that are complete malware that hijack your browser.
Yeah.
So, guys, seriously, like, just use your brain. It's important. And it's dangerous out there. So, but some good news that you can do with technology. So, if you want to help fight TV, you can do it, right? There's like loads of these different projects. One of them is like, I think it's called Folder. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked into it that much, but I know the moral of the story is it pretty much takes your GPU power and uses it to help the global research of modeling the coronavirus.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? It's very cool. And we've just been demonetized for saying the word. Thanks, YouTube. So yeah, that's basically what it does. It takes GPU power and adds it to basically a botnet, right? But if you don't want to do that for your computer, there's a new one that came out today. It's called Rosetta at Home, right? And it works on Raspbian, but also works on Ubuntu.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can actually, and also Android for that. So I watched a video where you can actually set up a Raspberry Pi to do, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm kind of, to quote Starship Troopers, I'm doing my part. And yeah, it works on Raspbian now. They've just updated it, so that's pretty cool. Basically, yeah. So it's called Rosetta at Home, and what Rosetta at Home does is it's used to predict the structure of proteins in the disease. And then makes stable mini proteins so you can actually like map this all out. So it uses that CPU to generate and then allows help them and allows to kind of add that computing power to it. So it's like a botnet. But the other thing is called folding at home. That's what it is as well. So there was a plea to hackers around the world and gamers to use their computers for that as well, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So look, if you have time at home, if you have a machine that you want to install this thing, or even throw up a VM and spin it on it, and you're good to go. But I think you'll enjoy this, Brin, because it's a cool little program that works away. So it's kind of like, instead of bit mining, you're using this. So check it out. Just Google Raspberry Pi Rosetta at home or folding at home, and you'll be able to find it out. But
I wonder if that will work on an Ubuntu subsystem.
I don't see any reason why it would. Why it wouldn't?
Yeah,
I don't see it. But like, if you're using that on Windows, you can just install folding at home.
No.
So yeah, it's cool. I have to say, it's great when stuff like that comes out, because the news has been so dark. That it's kind of a bummer. Like. But yeah, so they're something that you have to do. But listen, your first show back, everything is down, which sucks. But we are not out of things to talk about, because some cool things that have come out of this is gaming. We have time to game again, right? Even though we're working, because the internet doesn't sleep, and neither does technology really. We're still at home more, right? So like, as I said, people go on the Twitch stream, they can see that I game a lot on Twitch and I use the stream for that. But what are you playing at the moment?
Okay, where do I start? So,
exactly. Where to start? Exactly my point.
Yeah, so I'm okay. So on my computer, I'm playing through the Mass Effect games again. I'm on Mass Effect 3.
Right.
And yeah, I'm liking Mass Effect 3 more this time around than I did the first time. Yeah, it's like, it plays better than I remembered it playing.
Right.
And like, I have all the DLC now, so things are just a bit more like fleshed out and a bit more like I've had all the DLC for Mass Effect 1, for Mass Effect 2, and for Mass Effect 3. So I have like a very complete experience playing this time around rather than my first playthrough. And yeah, it's like, I'm really enjoying it, but I'm also aware that there is a very, very lackluster ending coming. So I have that in the back of my mind at all times with it. But yeah, really, really enjoying Mass Effect.
Didn't they fix the ending though to make it less terrible?
They did, but it's still underwhelming for the big operatic story. From what I've read, anyway, it's still a letdown for the big operatic story that they were telling, where player choice was going to have a very big part in it, and then it didn't.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like, and like, that much hasn't really changed, but I mean, yeah, it's the journey, not so much the destination, I think, with Mass Effect.
Fair,
at this point.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like, that's where I kind of dropped off with Mass Effect. Like, I like the first one. Like, see, I love the developers. That's the thing. They made one of my favorite games of all time, but again, it wasn't Star Wars, so I was like, I can let this go. And then when Mass Effect 3 came out and I heard what happened, I'm like, oh, dodge that bullet.
Like, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I've talked to different people about it, and it's interesting. It's like seeing people I know who don't like Mass Effect games played it on console.
That's fair.
And I can understand that.
Yeah. Because
I played it on a computer and I could not imagine that control scheme working on a gamepad in the slightest.
It doesn't.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. For me, the RPG elements in the first game didn't work. To me, when they streamlined it down to be more simplistic and more accessible, it actually improved the experience, in my opinion. Now, I understand some people very much disagree with that idea and prefer to have a much more pure RPG experience, and that's totally fine. But I think for the specific game that it was, especially because the role playing element is so diminished, where you're really just choosing between being like excuse me, a lawful between being pretty much like lawful good and lawful evil. Like it's when those are really the choices that you have, it kind of diminishes the idea of role playing to me.
Yeah.
So having a massively detailed character sheet doesn't really work for me. So I didn't mind it being more streamlined in later games.
You see, like one of my favorite games of all time is Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
So when I play, there's two ways I like to play RPGs: either hardcore RPGs or lighter RPGs. And I thought Mass Effect was neither. It was a weird kind of like mishmash of it, and particularly on Xbox at the time.
Yeah. It's just it's basically like your standard cover-based shooter with some RPG elements thrown into the mix.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, and it just did nothing for me.
Yeah, I've heard one person complain that it has too many cutscenes and it interrupted gameplay too much. I can't. It's like sure, that might be his experience. I can never hate on the game for that because I love Metal Gear Solid. Which
that's pretty much have some game with your cutscenes.
Basically, like it's. I mean, that game is like exposition dumps, galore, and I love it. Yeah. It's so ridiculous. But moving on from that, I started playing. I got the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Oh, very nice
on the Switch.
Very nice.
Which, I mean, so as a port goes, it's pretty good, except for one thing that annoys me more than it should, which is that it doesn't use the touchscreen, despite the fact that it's isometric. And I'm like,
yeah, but they'd have to probably rebuild the game from scratch.
But you see, it's available on Android. It's available on Android and iOS.
Oh,
so yeah. So why doesn't it have touchscreen?
Oh,
it's just something I'm left thinking about. Okay. Like it's again, it's hardcore RPG rules, and I love it. But I'm also like, it's one feature that I really expected to be there that isn't, and I'm like, well, that's a bit weird.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, have you ever played the Baldur's Gate games?
I played Baldur's Gate 2 a fair bit when I was like 12.
Have you seen the footage for Baldur's Gate 3?
No.
Yeah, you're going to want to watch the footage for Baldur's Gate 3. It looks really, really good. It's done by the developers on it are the same guys who did the Divinity series.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's very good. That's good. That's a good shout.
Yeah, it's going to be very good.
Baldur's Gate, I thought, was a series that was done.
Yep.
And now
for the longest time it was.
For the longest time. It's kind of like Fallout. Remember Fallout 1 and 2?
Pretty much.
That was it. And then Fallout 3 came out and it was like, whoa.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to Baldur's Gate 3. The trailer that released for it showed the opening cinematic, which looks unreal. And yeah, that game looks like it's going to be really, really good.
Very cool. Very cool.
But yeah, and then on my PS4, I finished playing God of War recently, which is so damn good.
Really? Is it working?
Oh man.
Okay.
It's a really, really good game.
See, on my playlist now, right?
Yeah.
Doom Eternal.
Yep.
Doom Eternal, Persona 5, and The Outer Worlds.
Yep.
They're games that I haven't opened yet.
Yeah.
Along with The Witcher 3. So I'm like, is it actually good? Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, definitely worth the experience.
Better than 3 and on like the fourth one.
What do I say? You see, it's a very different experience to the other games.
Okay, interesting. Because I loved God of War series.
Yeah, so like this time it's set in basically he's like Kratos has gone off to exile, and he's in somewhere in Norway, pretty much.
Right.
And like his the mother of his child has died, and they're going off on this journey to go to the highest peak in the realm to scatter her ashes.
Right.
But before he can do that, he's attacked by a guy who doesn't seem like he can die. And if that reminds you of any Norse god, which it should,
yeah,
Yeah. That's how the game that's pretty much how the game begins.
So
yeah.
what, is he killing Norse gods now? Is that what's happening?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
While he's going on this journey with his son, who like they kind of grow to have a relationship over the course of the journey, and like it's really, really good.
Okay. I'll definitely I think it's like €8 or something now on sale on PS4.
Yeah. It's seriously worth €8. Like,
okay, great.
Seriously worth €8.
I'll move that up on my list.
But because I know you like Norse mythology, so you would get a bit of kick out of it. Like, you don't. I could be wrong, but I don't think you see Thor.
Right.
I think you see Zeus, but I can't remember if you
mean Odin
do in any way. Or it's not. Yeah, you do. Sorry, you do see Zeus, but that's in a dream sequence. You do see Odin. I think you see Odin, but I can't remember exactly.
All right.
Yeah, and like as I alluded to, you do see Balder.
Right.
And Balder's mother, but I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But yeah, those are the ones you kind of see. But you go to a few different realms, like
Balder's mother's name has completely left me now. You mentioned it, because I'm replaying Zero Punctuation's review of that game that came out, the terrible game. I know I used loads of terrible games. But what's it called? The one that bankrupted the company. And it was all based on ornithology. Too Human. Yeah, Too Human. And that was all about Balder, basically Balder and his mother, and I can't remember his mother's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember. But yeah, like oh man, the story is unreal. Like, it's the gameplay's pretty good. It's it uses like a very tight over the shoulder camera view. But like,
I'm assuming the weapons are all differently. Like, you're not using the chains of Olympus or anything.
Your weapon choices are very limited in this game, which is one of the big differences between it and
because
the
weapons
were
awesome in all the other ones.
Yeah, the weapons choices are very limited in this. For the majority of the game, you're only going to be using an axe and your fists.
Oh wow!
And that's and then you get another weapon later on in the game, but it's like, oh man, it's very much going for like it's going for a very different kind of combat style where it's less like area of effect kind of attacks.
Yeah, it seems to be more kind of like personal as such rather than big bombastic waves upon waves upon waves of enemies.
Yeah, it's a lot less like, I'm trying to think of like I've seen people make some weird comparisons to it, where I've heard people compare it to Dark Souls, which I just don't get my head around.
It didn't strike me as Dark Souls.
It's like it's one of the weirder comparisons I've seen, because I don't see how it's remotely like Dark Souls.
Like, I don't like Dark Souls at all. I got over it, when I was reviewing games. I'm like, okay,
I absolutely see the merits of the Souls
definitely
games, but they're not for me.
Yeah, same.
Like, but I wouldn't say like, if anything, it's kind of like in terms of like how tightly it controls, in terms of how well it uses its mechanics. I compare and how like immersive and emotional the story is. I compare it to The Last of Us a lot.
That
personally.
Kind of strikes me more of what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very different emotional experience to The Last of Us, but that's kind of, in terms of like emotional intensity towards the end of the game, that's kind of where the story drags you, I feel.
See, that's what I think a lot of the new PS4, or the legacy of the PS4, is going to be. To get, like, every console has its game format. Like, the legacy of the Xbox 360 is the cover-based shooter, or first-person shooter, and cover-based shooter. Like this, like all the big games seem to be like The Last of Us, and that was obviously building on Uncharted and stuff like that, and kind of became its thing.
Well, I mean, Last of Us came out at the end of the previous generation as well.
Exactly, yeah. It was peaking up to it, and then we went in. We had like the real kind of like all the games, like even games like Spider-Man. They had segments,
emotional hits in it.
Yeah, emotional hits, but also say even gameplay wise, that felt very Last of Us-y. You know, I think it's just because it's the way that PlayStation make their games now.
Yeah, well, I think it's what they kind of mandate from the games to have a level of having a level of like tightness to.
So I'll pick that up. I didn't. Didn't expect to want to play it, but I'll pick that up.
Oh man, like God of War is like a must. And then because of your so bad it's good recommendation, I picked up WWE 2K20, which
my god, let's talk about this.
Oh man,
right? Oh, isn't it wonderful?
Like I haven't played that much of it, but because I've only really been doing the career mode because I want to just finish it so it's done.
That's all I played though. I didn't I finished the career mode and I'm never picking that game up again.
No, I'm definitely going to play through for the other modes where there's like it seems like they have like a few other weird modes. There.
Yeah, the tower modes are weird and stuff like that. Yeah. But by the time you get through the career mode, dude, you've seen the weird stuff. Like, I played a lot of this on Twitch, so you know you guys can see it on Twitch. But here's the weird thing: that game is eerily prescient to what happened at WrestleMania.
Is it?
Yeah, I swear to God, right? Do you want me to go into it, or do you want to be surprised?
I really, at this point, man, I just finished doing the SummerSlam story in that game, which is awful.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like guys, it's one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. Yeah. But it's also one of the most compelling storylines I've ever played in my life. I don't understand the way it's good.
Yeah. It's the thing that I think is like so interesting about it is that like I think mechanically speaking out of the 2K games, I do think mechanically it is better than the other ones I've played, which was 2K15 and 2K16.
Oh, play 2K17, 18, and 19. 2K19 is incredible.
Yeah,
it's so tight. It's so fluid. So I've gone back to play 2K17.
I still think this game has like. I still think this game plays very well.
It does until it doesn't.
Yeah,
and it's very slow. Like the actual gameplay is like I play 2K17 now because the career mode is actually like end to end really good, and it's actually your wrestler's career going through.
Yeah,
this they changed, and it's like they did it in 2K19 where Buzz was the character, but you can still kind of be Buzz.
Yeah.
This career mode, they've literally just created these two characters, and halfway through, actually more than half, like less than halfway through, I just gave up, renamed them Red and Trey because that's what they are.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be doing as well because I just can't take it.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no point. This is not my character. This is Red and Trey, and like. It goes to our story, and to be fair, look, their story is very, like, I was really engaged the whole time, like, except for Trey being an absolute, like.
The thing that strikes me with it is, so I think everything with Red is really, really good. I think the story and everything they have for her is excellent.
Yeah,
and it's really well executed, and she strikes me as a character that's going like, if you watch this girl wrestle,
you would be in.
You'd be rooting for her.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Trey, not only do people not root for him, but people also go like, this is really dumb. Like, there was that bit, I think it was around Money in the Bank, where he's basically a free agent and gets the Universal title.
Yeah.
Apropos of nothing, despite the fact that everyone, wrestlers and fans think he's crap.
He shows up on Raw. He shows up in the
title
and wins the title. And it's like, but here's the thing: it's not like when you're watching it. Like, it's not like this is a show.
Yeah.
In that world,
Yeah.
It's all real. Yeah. It's all shoot.
I can't stand that as well, because they really want to have their cake and eat it, because at some points they really want you to feel like this is fake.
Yeah.
And then at other points this has been a problem with career modes in 2K forever, as far as I can tell, where they just go, well, like you still have to compete to win, and it's like, but you know this isn't real.
But yeah, like look, to be fair, that makes I can buy that, right? I can buy that, because that's just telling the story, right?
Yeah.
But this goes so far.
Yeah.
And when you actually get into it, man, when it hits, you will know.
Yeah.
Right? It's all real. Like, it's all 100% real.
Yep.
Like, they fight. Okay. I have to talk about it, right? So it's so ridiculous all the way through, as far as, like, you know, Trey, I'm convinced there's something like wrong with him, like mentally, where it's like, are you like okay? It seems like you're not okay, buddy. Red is just like, she's just in, and she's like, so, you know, she makes sense. She's like a female Danny O'Brien, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, right, okay, you're fine. But her friend is such a horrible person at the beginning, and she ends up coming back, and the stuff she does is like, how is she doing this?
Yeah.
Like, at one point she commits assault, and you're like, literally just assault, and you're like, jail?
Yeah.
No jail. Okay, no jail. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
But okay, so there's one point where it hits the fan, and Trey is like, I need to win legitimacy, so I'm going to fight the Undertaker. Now, okay, this is based in the future.
Yeah.
So I think it's based in 2030, 2040, right?
Yeah.
Judging by, like, Randy Orton, for example, is the GM of Raw.
Yeah.
And
I think it's like mid-2020s. Is when it's supposed to be, because
the technology is pretty new, though, dude. They have, like, future tech.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, like,
there's a robotic arm in it.
Yeah, but at the same time, though,
Samoa Joe has a cybernetic arm.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. So future, it's the hard future, right? So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought it was, and then the robot cybernetic arm came out, and I'm like, no, this is 2030, has to be.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, right. So Vince McMahon is dead because they don't mention him.
Yeah.
And Triple H is there, right? So The Rock is the president.
Yeah. And then John Cena is the president.
What, John Cena is the president?
Yeah, during a dream sequence, you find out that John Cena becomes the president.
Oh, wow. Okay. You fight The Rock at one point as the president as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
To be honest, that sounds pretty good.
It is. It's pretty good, but there's no voice acting, and he doesn't look like The Rock, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, okay, so you're on the roster, and no one's taking you seriously. So your goal is to find the Undertaker, right? Who, at this point, you know, in real life is probably like 80, right, or dead. I hope not. I hope he lives longer than that. But this is the premise. Now, in order to find the Undertaker, Papa Shango transports you to the. I swear, he transports you to the Nether Realm, and then you meet Kane as Kane from now, and you fight him, and then Matt Hardy arrives to transport you to Hell, where you fight the Undertaker in Hell, who is the Undertaker, the character, and then you come back with his ashes.
Oh, wow.
But in order to get there, you have to fight Bray Wyatt, who's not the Fiend, who's just Bray Wyatt. And then you fight Nikki Cross as Regan from The Exorcist.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, what is this?
That's insane.
Right? And that's not even, like, I'm gobsmacked playing this whole thing, and I'm like, they knew they had a terrible game.
Oh, they just ran with it.
And they just went with it. Because they're like, look, this game sucks. And I have to say, by doing that, it's single-handedly one of the best games I've played in a long time. Because it's like, they just went for it. They just did it.
But
they
it's like,
did it.
I mean, like as you know, there's a wrestling game on the PC that I absolutely adore, despite how terrible it is.
It's the one where they all die.
Wrestling Revolution.
Wrestling Revolution.
That's so bad.
Like. That's what it felt like.
So bad. Like Wrestling Revolution is like, it's such a terrible game. It's so bad, but it has things in it that just make me love it. Like, you can play a wrestling match in this game, and you can kill people. Like, you don't intend to do it. It just happens. Like, where you just get like, the match ends, and you just get a news report saying the person you wrestled against is dead now. And you're like, what?
Oh my god. Oh my god. But see, like, that's what I mean. You know, like, if they had just went out and just released 2K19, everyone would have been like, oh, it's terrible. And then you realize that the goal is not the game. The goal is like in this gem of a career mode.
Oh,
which
absolutely.
Is absolutely crazy. Now, if I had paid like real money for it, I would be very upset.
Yeah.
But, you know, playing through it, I'm like, they do the wildest things. And I think it's because they're like, this is real. Yeah. Like, it's really real to them. You're like, okay, this adds this whole, like, they have to fight over movie spots with The Miz, and then they fight the director. Yeah. And stuff happens where you're like, jail time would happen here for what
absolutely.
You've done. Like, you know, even in a wrestling concept, like, there's no police. Where are the police? Like, Samoa Joe murders people.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know?
Sure, like, my favorite thing as well was, like, you have an empty arena match with Braun Strowman for the Universal title to keep Samoa Joe away from the match, to keep him away. Yeah. And he gets there anyway. Like,
but what I love about this is there's like 3 or 4 empty arena matches in this.
Yeah.
How prescient is that? Like, literally, I'm watching this and I'm like, when that happened, so I played like most of it before WrestleMania, and we won't get into WrestleMania talk, but, you know, anyway.
We don't have the time.
We don't have the time. But I was watching it and I was playing, I'm like, oh, wow, empty arena matches? This is kind of spooky that they were able to predict this, because I don't remember an empty arena match being in any other ones. And there's like 4 of them so far. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. And then I watch WrestleMania and see the Fireflies Funhouse match and the Boneyard match, and the career just turns into that. And I'm like, what did they know? What did they know? Alright, gang, that's going to do it for the Phoenix FM segment. If you're listening to this on the podcast, the show will continue after this break. If you're not and you're listening to this on Phoenix 92.5 FM, thank you for joining us live. Go over to Nerd to Know Media right now, nerdtoknowmedia.com, and get the rest of the show. Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. Check it out now. We'll see you next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM.
Are you a nerd? Do you like hearing about a bizarre range of topics from the world of nerd? Does your heart and hairstyle still belong in the nostalgic 90s? Are you a sucker for spooky weirdo things? Well, whether you're a hardcore nerd or a vanilla ice baby, Straight Outta Canto is the podcast radio show for you! Straight Outta Canto, that's Kanto, Ireland's #1 show for nerd culture, nightmares, nostalgia, and more. Straight Outta Canto.
Hey, Darragh, what are you doing over there in Ireland? Like with the freaking leprechauns and everything. That's not cool. You should be over here with the cosplayers. At least then you could, like, I don't know, pretend like you got, I don't know, some kind of thing going on. Yeah, with you give me a Brooklyn Rage. Yeah, with you. Darragh. Darragh? Yeah, Darragh. Why ain't you over here with Joey? Anyway, we miss you, dude. So, this is Little Karibo saying, we love you.
What did they know? What did they know?
I think it's just a case of Simpsons.
Oh man, but like, what are the odds? Like, the one year that they're like, you know what? We have a terrible game here. Let's just go crazy. WWE, like, you know what? We have a terrible WrestleMania here. Let's just go crazy, and then it just becomes the most memorable thing.
Absolutely, I think it's just very much a case that they didn't really know what they had.
Like I was saying, look, if you're a wrestling fan and you're a fan of the games, you're going to hate the actual game itself. But the career mode is one of the wildest things I've ever played.
Yeah, the game itself, like I'm enjoying it for the moment. it won't stop me from going back to Fire Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
Like,
You know, but look, if you're looking for like a proper wrestling game, Fire Pro is obviously that. 2K19 is great. 2K17 is very good. Like that's just legit. You start off at the Performance Center, and it's all like, you know, we know this isn't real. You know, that kind of thing. You know?
The thing that I really like with Fire Pro more so in term than at the WWE games, for those people who are wondering why would you be saying that this other game is better. One of the things I don't like about the WWE games is that like they put a huge emphasis on trying to have 5-star matches, but they've constructed the game in such a way that you're trying to win as quickly and as effectively as possible.
Right.
You know, because you're going, well, you do, because like if you're trying to do like the 5-star match, you basically have to do literally every move in your arsenal.
And like several kickouts and stuff like that.
And you have to do kickouts and you have to do reversals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not really, when you're trying to play it, the way the game is telling you explicitly to play the game, it becomes really dull really quickly. Whereas with Fire Pro, one of the reasons why I really enjoy it is that the whole idea of the game is that you're not trying to, is that like that everyone's input counts in it, not just your input. So instead, your mindset isn't about trying to win the match. You're trying to have the best match possible. So that means that you don't want to, that you're not necessarily going for leg kickouts because you want to win, because you don't want to lose. You're doing leg kickouts because you want the match to be exciting. And it's one of those things where it's difficult to explain, but when you're actually sitting down and playing it and you understand what the mechanics of the game are, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. And it also becomes a very exciting prospect when you start understanding the mechanics of it, because then once you start getting 100% ratings, you're like, oh my god, this is so much fun. And even if you lose, you're like, I don't care because I had fun. And
it's a deeper experience, but it's a different kind of experience.
Absolutely.
You know, it seems more like it's a professional wrestling simulator.
Yep, absolutely is.
You know, which is what it is. Like, as in, like the core of how professional wrestling works, rather than what WWE games usually are, which is not that.
Yeah, the frustrating thing with WWE games is that they look like simulators and they're animated like they're simulators. But they do not simulate a wrestling match. No.
Like as far as what wrestling actually
is. Yeah. Like you're not like if you're playing against the computer, you're not working with the computer to make a good match.
No, you're trying to beat the computer.
Fighting the computer at every step to get to basically do what a lot of people complain in wrestling about, which is getting your stuff in.
Yeah.
And the game is like, oh no, you have to get your stuff in.
But that's literally like, that's the problem. That's the have your cake and eat it too, where it's like, and that's what really bugs me about, you know, at least with 2K20, they're like, well, look, in this universe, it's real.
Yep.
So you better kill him because he's going to kill you.
Yeah. Make sure you get your stuff in while you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you know, make sure you hit him with like 15 RKOs because if you don't, he's not going to lie down for you.
You didn't use enough normal grapples. Sorry, 3 stars.
3 stars. Yeah. But with 2K19 and stuff like that, there definitely is that kind of thing where you're like, all right, you know. But look, it's you know, I it's disappointing as well because like a lot of the graphics in it are like it's a really unfinished game. Like what I will say is, you know, if you're not a fan of what we've talked about, which I'm sorry if what I've just said there doesn't pique your interest to play the game, I can't help it. But the glitches are incredible. Like even still, like when I got the game, I downloaded it because obviously I got it digitally, and when I started it up, I had to download another pack, which is obviously the fix, and that was like 4 or 5 gigs. Open up the game, in massive glitch, ring breaks. I'm like,
outstanding.
I'm like, good job.
Within 2 hours, my game had crashed 3 times.
Luckily, I only had one catastrophic crash, and the power went out. So I don't blame that on the game. That's unfair. But I only had one catastrophic clash. But what did happen a lot is when I'd go to pin someone, particularly playing as Red. It never happened with Trey, but it happened with Red all the time. I'd go to pin someone, and then they would kick out or stand up, and Red's arm would spin around uncontrollably. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Or she'd get caught or Trey would get caught in the ropes, and he couldn't move. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah. There's like a small error with the ring-in animation that I have set for Red, where she's too short to do it.
Oh no!
So she just trips up over the ropes the whole time.
Oh, fantastic!
I just can't be bothered to change it because it just low level entertains me too much.
The hair freaks me out. The hair physics are horrible. Hair doesn't be actually Bianca Belair. If you're doing anything with her, she is broken by definition because her hair catches on everything and just breaks completely. Yeah. So you're just playing it and you're like, oh well, it can't handle it. But I have even the clothes. Yeah. So if you have clothes on clothes, it doesn't work. So Red's wrestling outfit doesn't work. It can't render on the game. So it's this is no one tested this. They just released it and then hope for the best.
I think what's so interesting as well is that was it this game or was it 2K19 that was the first one without Ukes?
This is the first one completely without Ukes.
Yeah, because Ukes after 14 or no, hang on, after nearly 20 years of working on WWE games, we're sick of WWE games. We'll make our own wrestling game.
Well, no, what they weren't sick of WWE games in particular. They were sick of doing the same thing. I know exactly what they said was they're sick of doing the same thing but removing features.
Yeah.
Rather than adding features, which is what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I think visual entertainment or visual something, I can't remember the name of it, but that was the in-house that WWE used. And they just built the game from scratch, trying to replicate Ukes.
What Ukes had done, yeah.
But they didn't have the time to do that.
No.
And you can see it, you're like, okay, there's a functional product here, but it's not as good as the last year's one. But I'm really glad they went, because there would be no redeeming features in this if it didn't have the weird stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see it that they leaned really hard into it by having the towers. They have a cyberpunk terrorist tower. You're like, what? They have a nightmare tower, which is obviously the big selling point, the one of Bray Wyatt, the Fiend.
Yeah.
So it's they tried. They really, really tried, but it was they really tried to cover up for this,
Yeah. It's that classic Louis C.K. Quote of, if they tried their best, but it wasn't good.
No, it is good. It's just not good. It's
yeah, but it's in the so bad it's good territory though.
Oh
it's
yeah,
not,
no, exactly, exactly.
We're not saying it's good because of its quality. We're saying it's good in spite of its quality.
Yes, seriously, on the channel, there's a bunch of streams of me just playing it, going, "What is this?" And it's before WrestleMania, and I can't believe that they went this far. And then I watch WrestleMania, I'm like, this is kind of spooky that they were that on the nose of where WWE was going. So fair play. But I tell you, Keen is right. When he isn't on the show, we just go into wrestling talk. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
Before
it took us most of the episode to get here.
Fair. This is what I didn't want to start there because then we wouldn't cover anything else.
No.
One thing I have to say, I've started watching Tiger King.
Oh man, how far are you in?
Oh man, I'm 3 episodes in. I kind of fell asleep for a bit.
Oh wow, yeah. No, that bombshell at the end of episode 2 will wake anyone up.
Yeah. That's exactly where I am, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah. So it's a little bit before the watershed, going on Phoenix, but look, if you're of age, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. It's wild. It's a bit slow to start, and then by the end of episode 2 and 3,
if you're not hooked by the end of episode 2, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know how you're not hooked. The man has like 120 lions and tigers.
And the worst eyebrow piercing of all time.
Yeah. It's just like, it's weird, man. It's a crazy show. I'll probably break it down more next week when I see the whole thing. But I'm glad I watched it because I was him and Han, and then I kind of watched Ghost Adventures for a bit. I'm like, no, I'll watch this. Yeah, but I love Ghost Adventures. And
it's so good though.
Oh man,
it is so good.
Such a good show. It's well worth it.
Yeah, I watched it over 2 sittings. Where we watched the first 3 episodes, and we watched the last 4.
Right,
and it's unreal. We got Disney Plus as well.
Yeah, what do you think?
The selection is better than I thought it was going to be, but I'm also noticing things that I'm kind of disappointed. I'm disappointed by their absence.
Right.
So, like, first of all, every episode of The Simpsons, A+. Pretty much every season of Spider-Man minus Spectacular Spider-Man and MTV Spider-Man, A++.
Yeah, like the fact they have all the classic
Marvel,
like series, the TAS, and more.
Yeah,
it's just brilliant. It's like, I actually managed to track them all down. Theoretically, of course, by sailing the high seas.
Yep.
Many moons ago. So I have all of them.
Yeah.
But
it's just nice they're there.
It's nice they're there, and they're in like to be fair, the hardest one to find.
Yeah.
The hardest one to find was Avengers Assemble.
Oh yeah.
That show sucks. Nobody likes it, but you need it for completion, right? And that was the hardest one to find. But my favorite one actually is, but not my favorite one. Favorite one is Spider-Man.
Yeah,
of course it is. But the best one is actually, like, objectively, is the Hulk.
Oh man, the Hulk is so good.
Such a good show.
So good. Yeah, I binged all of Spider-Man because, of course, I did.
Did you stop? But when he goes into space, the follow up to that, which is terrible.
The Spider-Man Unlimited.
Yeah, it's a bad show.
Well, I've seen it all before.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't follow up with it because, like, it's first of all, it's weird that it's there because it was cancelled.
Yeah.
Before the run even finished.
But it's just it's so bad. It's such like, it was obviously trying to be Batman Beyond without any idea of why Batman Beyond was good.
Yep. And I mean, look, there's episodes in that run that I like. There's episodes I really don't. I think it would have been more worthwhile if it had finished the run, because at least then you might have had the whole seasonal story they were telling. But there's just not enough to it to be like, oh, this is really, really good. I would have much preferred if they just did a Spider-Man 2099 show. Yeah, that's by comparison. They should have just done that. Actually, know what they if they wanted to make money now, they should finish that run and do Spider-Man 2099. Yeah, which is what they're doing with Clone Wars anyway. But like, I think the cinematic, not cinematic universe, the animated universe, let's call it that. Yeah, that's still something that you can actually kind of go back to because it's so deep. Yeah, so absolutely. To be fair, I prefer it to the cinematic universe. It's better. It's always going to hold a place in my heart, but it's also able to do a lot more than the cinematic universe is. Yeah. It has pretty much all the characters that you want and some that you don't want, that you don't know is there. For example, like it was my first real exposure to the broader, because it came out in 1994, so I was 6? Yep. So before I was reading comics or anything like that, but it got me into comics, to be honest with you. And Batman. Batman, yeah. But like, this always felt more approachable. Like, I loved Batman as a kid, don't get me wrong, but it was always really dark. It was literally and figuratively dark compared to the animated series, where you're like, this is a great time, it introduced you to, like, the X-Men was on as well, but Fantastic Four, Iron Man, first time seeing Blade before the movie came out, Daredevil, Captain. And one of my favorite episodes, and it's kind of lame when you look back at it, is when you do the what's it called? What is it called? Secret Wars. When you do Secret Wars. Oh yeah. And you're like, oh wow, this is cool. And they do the Spider-Verse to close off the run. Yeah, which
was a weird one as a kid to see all the different, all the different Spider-Men.
Really, really cool at the time.
Very cool at the time. One of my favorite episodes that they did, our favorite run, because the way they did it, for anyone who doesn't know, each season would have like a proper run from the comics that they do, and they'd obviously, adjust it for needed. But one of my favorite ones was where they changed Captain America's. It was a play on Captain America's wartime thing, where it was him getting his powers, but then the people who wear the superpowers,
the six forgotten warriors.
6 forgotten warriors. Yeah, I love that run.
Yeah.
And it's kind of terrible at the same time, but I really like it.
It was really good right up until the weapon was revealed to be Electro.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of fell apart.
That annoyed me a great deal because I'm like, that's not Electro. That's like, even then, as a kid, I'm like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But I understand what he did because there's no other real way to kind of get Electro in.
Oh yeah, and they'd also written themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
Also as a public service announcement as well, the Venture Brothers, every single episode of it is on all 4 right now.
Oh wow.
And the Venture Brothers is one of the, if you're listening to the show and you have not seen the Venture Brothers, you owe it to yourself to watch the Venture Brothers. It is, I cannot understate how good it is. As far as I'm concerned, it has the best character development of any show that has ever been committed to the screen.
Oh wow!
It is the world building is outstanding. There are just character moves that just defy belief from it. The downside to it is the first season is not the best.
But to be fair, that's the case with like the first season of Parks and Rec is pretty bad.
Oh yeah, the first 2 seasons of Parks and Rec are pretty bad. It's only in the season near the season finale of that show that I've kind of started hitting a stride.
So I wouldn't hold that against.
No, and it's only 20-minute episodes, and I think there are 12 episodes in a season.
Yeah,
but the ending to season 1 makes you just go, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah,
and
it's very there. It kind of picks off.
It just gets so good.
What I will say, just finishing up on Spider-Man, the animated series has my favorite Spider-Man actor.
Oh yeah,
like it's weird. It's same with Kevin Conroy. Even though Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman on screen, when I read comics, Kevin Conroy's voice I hear.
Yeah.
It's the same with Christopher Daniel Barnes.
Yeah.
When I read Spider-Man, it's his voice.
Yeah. The guy who did Spider-Man Unlimited was pretty good.
He was really good, but again, it's not Christopher Daniel Barnes.
Yeah.
And one thing I really liked when they did the Spider-Man game Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
They brought him back. Now, they brought him back as...
Oh, you mean the Shattered Dimensions?
That was it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shattered Dimensions. Yeah, they brought him in as Spider-Man Noir, which I wish he was, actual Spider-Man, because I hate the Noir segments in that game.
Yeah. I love the Noir segments.
No, see... It was because it was like a bad Batman Arkham Asylum. It wasn't as refined.
No, it wasn't as refined. I liked it, but it wasn't as refined.
That's I wish it was. If it had been as refined, it would have been fine. I thought it was cool, but I wish they had had. You should have got Nicolas Cage for that, which is what they did in Into Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Well, they had the misfortune of making that game about 10 years beforehand.
Yeah, I know, but they got there eventually, right? They got there eventually.
I mean, that game was really interesting because they had different Spider-Man voice actors.
Yeah, it was great.
Through where it was like Neil Patrick Harris was amazing.
Yeah, because he did the MTV show.
Yeah.
I
can't remember who was Ultimate.
I don't remember his name, but I think he was the fresh actor they brought in.
Yeah, maybe he was the fresh actor, and then yes, Christopher Daniel Barnes was Noir, and then 2099 I think was the guy from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm just going to pull the cast up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris, Chris Daniel Barnes, Dan Gavizzian was Spider 2099.
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
That voice.
I really did not like that voice at all.
No.
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, not fun.
Yeah.
But the guy who played Ultimate Spider-Man, Josh Keaton, he actually was the Spider-Man for pretty much all the games. So Fate of Two Worlds, Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
He also and Marvel's Superhero Squad, and he played the voice in the Spectacular Spider-Man, which apparently is really good.
Oh yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man is a very, very close second to the animated series.
I've never seen it.
Yep, I'd recommend it. Only 2 seasons, and it's a seriously close second.
Is it on Disney Plus?
No, it's one of the few. It's one of the 2 seasons, the 2 runs that isn't there.
Oh, bummer. Okay, well, I will definitely check it out because
oh man, like it's 2 seasons, but the first season's excellent. The second season is not as good, but still very good.
Well, there you go. That's one. That's Shattered Dimensions is great because it does kind of pull those together. Like again, I wish Chris Daniel Barnes was still voicing Spider-Man, but it's weird. He was in the Brady Bunch movie, which I found out as an adult, and it was very weird. I'm like,
strange.
So strange. Very strange. A very, very strange career that man has had, but literally he is the voice of Spider-Man for me. So anyway, Disney Plus, we have it too. I haven't had a great deal. My sister loves it. My family love it. I'm like, cool. I'll check it out eventually. But
no Futurama is another thing I'm not thrilled about. Yeah.
Actually, Chris Daniel Barnes played Electro in Spider-Man Ultimate.
No way.
Yeah. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 he was in as well in the game. And he was also in Marvel Ultimate 3 Alliance. He played Electro, so there's your crossover.
Interesting.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Okay, we went a bit long this week. See, this is the thing, Brin. You haven't been on the show in ages, and we have no control because Keane isn't here.
No. We don't have a referee.
No, we don't. So we went along. So listen, anyone who's listening to us on the podcast, thanks for sticking with us. Yeah. Anyone listening to us on Phoenix, go to listen to the podcast because I had to cut out loads of this to make it fit into the hour. Brin, anything you like to plug?
I'm going to just relay back to the beginning of the show and say plug the sponsor for this week. So Brave Browser.
Awesome.
Once more. We have the link down in the description of the cast. Is that right?
Yeah. So wherever you're listening to this, it will be in the description. But if you're listening and want to check it out now. It's brave.com/NER386. And that's the most, that really helps out. It's free. Doesn't cost anything. Yeah. If you want to support the show directly, there's other ways in the description to do that. So,
Seriously, Brave is such a good browser.
Exactly. It's fantastic. It really is. Particularly if you're looking for a better internet experience. But we talked about that all in the beginning of the show. So let's not relay that.
No.
Major updates to the website are coming soon. I had to do a complete rebuild of the website and remigration of the website. So look for that soon. nerdtoknowmedia.com. You can subscribe to all of us, to all the stuff we're doing over on Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Twitch as well. We stream a lot because there's nothing else to do because of the lockdown. So, check that out, guys. And until next week, we'll be back here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, nerdtoknowmedia.com. We'll talk to you then.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.